You're born in complete darkness, tucked away in a burrow that your mother scraped out weeks before you arrived. It's cramped in here, with your siblings pressed against you on all sides, but none of you can see anything yet. Your eyes are sealed shut, your ears are folded closed, and the world beyond this den might as well not exist. All you know is warmth, the steady rhythm of your mother's breathing, and the constant competition for milk. Your mother doesn't stay put for long. She's restless, always moving, always listening. Every few hours she disappears completely, leaving you and your siblings alone in the dark. You don't understand it yet, but she's checking the area, making sure nothing with teeth and claws has picked up your scent. The world outside is full of things that would love to find a den full of helpless raccoon dog pups. When she comes back, she settles down carefully, letting you and your siblings crawl over each other to reach her. There's no polite waiting in line here. If you want to eat, you push your way to the front and you hold your position. Your siblings are doing the same thing, squirming and shoving with surprising determination for creatures that can barely move. The strongest ones get the best spots, and the weakest ones get whatever's left over. After about 2 weeks, something changes. Light creeps in around the edges of your vision as your eyelids finally crack open. The world is blurry and overwhelming, but you can make out shapes now. Your mother is massive compared to you, a wall of gray and brown fur that shifts and moves. Your siblings are clearer too, small bundles of fluff that look exactly like you. Some are bigger, some are smaller, but all of them are competing for the same things you want. Your ears open around the same time, and suddenly the world is full of sounds you never noticed before. Your mother makes soft clicking noises when she's calm, sharp huffs when she's alert, and a low growl when something outside makes her nervous. You start making sounds too, tiny whimpers when you're hungry, and squeaking protests when one of your siblings pushes you out of the way. By the time you're a month old, you're mobile enough to explore the den. It's not much to look at, just dirt walls and a narrow tunnel that leads to the outside world. But to you, it's everything. You spend hours investigating every corner, sniffing at roots that poke through the ceiling and testing your balance on the uneven floor. Your siblings are doing the same thing, turning the small space into a constant wrestling match. Your mother brings food now instead of just nursing you. She drops pieces of meat, insects, and strange-tasting things you can't identify yet. Everything is pre-chewed and soft, but it's your first taste of what the outside world has to offer. Some of it is delicious, some of it makes you wrinkle your nose, but you eat all of it anyway. Your body is growing fast, and it needs fuel. One day, your mother doesn't come back when she usually does. Hours pass, then more hours. You and your siblings huddle together, whimpering and waiting. When she finally returns, she's moving differently. Her ears are flat against her head, and she keeps looking back toward the tunnel entrance. She doesn't settle down to let you nurse. Instead, she starts moving around the den, sniffing everything and making low, anxious sounds. Then you hear it too. Something is digging above you. Dirt falls from the ceiling in small showers, and the sound gets closer. Your mother reacts instantly, grabbing the nearest sibling and disappearing up the tunnel. She comes back for another, then another. When she reaches for you, her teeth close gently around your neck, and suddenly you're being carried through darkness. The tunnel seems to go on forever, twisting and turning until you're completely lost. Then fresh air hits your face, and you're outside for the first time in your life. The world is enormous, filled with smells and sounds and movement that make your head spin. Your mother doesn't stop to let you adjust. She carries you across rough ground, through tall grass, and into another hole in the ground. This one is smaller, hastily dug, but it's safe for now. You never find out what was digging toward your first den. Maybe it was a badger. Maybe it was something worse. All you know is that your mother's quick thinking kept. She goes back for your remaining siblings, making you alive trip after trip until everyone is accounted for. Well, almost everyone. One sibling doesn't make it to the new den. Your mother doesn't explain what happened, and you don't ask. You're learning that survival isn't guaranteed, even when you're still small enough to fit in your mother's mouth. The new den becomes your world for the next few weeks. It's not as comfortable as the first one, but your mother makes improvements. She digs it deeper, wider, adding side tunnels and multiple exits. You help without meaning to. Your constant exploring and digging, wearing down the walls and making more space. Your siblings do the same, turning the simple hole into a complex burrow system. Your mother's hunting trips get longer as you get bigger. She needs more food to keep up with your growing appetites, and that means venturing further from the den. Sometimes she comes back with prey you've never seen before: birds with bright feathers, fish that still smell like water, small mammals that look almost like miniature versions of creatures you don't recognize yet. You're getting braver too. The tunnel entrance doesn't seem as scary anymore, and sometimes step up toward the opening to peer outside. The world beyond is green and brown and constantly moving. Trees sway in the wind, grass bends and straightens, and occasionally something darts across your limited field of view. You want to chase it, but you're not ready yet. Your teeth are coming in now, sharp little points that make eating easier and nursing more challenging for your mother. She starts weaning you gradually, bringing more solid food and spending less time lying still while you and your siblings feed. Some of your siblings adapt quickly, tearing into the meat she provides with enthusiasm. Others struggle, still trying to nurse long after she's made it clear that phase is ending. At around 2 months old, your mother makes a decision that changes everything. Instead of leaving you in the den while she hunts, she leads you and your siblings outside. Not far, just a few meters from the entrance, but it might as well be another planet. Everything is bigger, brighter, and more overwhelming than you imagined. Your first instinct is to run back to the safety of the den, but your mother blocks the way. She makes a soft, chittering sound that you somehow understand means, "Stay close," and she starts moving through the grass. You follow, partly because you trust her and partly because you don't know what else to do. Your siblings fan out around you, some brave enough to explore, others sticking close to your mother's side. The lesson is simple, but crucial. This is your territory. Your mother walks you through the area around your den, stopping to mark certain trees and rocks with her scent. She shows you where water can be found, where the best digging spots are located, and which paths are safest to travel. You don't understand all of it yet, but you're absorbing every detail. Then she demonstrates hunting. A beetle crawls across a fallen log, unaware that it's being watched. Your mother moves with incredible precision, freezing when it stops, creeping forward when it moves. When she's close enough, she pounces, pinning it with one paw. She doesn't kill it immediately. Instead, she holds it down and looks at you expectantly. You don't understand at first, but one of your siblings gets it. They rush forward and grab the beetle, shaking it roughly before trying to bite through its shell. The beetle struggles, legs waving frantically, but your sibling holds on. After a few seconds of wrestling, the beetle stops moving, and your sibling eats it with obvious satisfaction. Your turn comes next. Your mother finds a small frog near a puddle and captures it the same way, holding it down but leaving the killing to you, The frog is slippery and harder to grip than the beetle, and it makes distressing sounds that almost make you let go. But hunger wins over sympathy, and you bite down hard enough to stop its struggles. The taste is unlike anything you've experienced. It's not pre-chewed, not softened by your mother's saliva. It's fresh and wild and somehow more satisfying than any meal you've had in the den. You eat every bit, crunching through bones and swallowing everything. When you're done, you look around for more. Your mother leads you to different spots over the following days, each one offering new lessons. Near a stream, she shows you how to catch small fish by being patient and striking fast. In a patch of soft soil, she demonstrates digging for grubs and other buried treasures. Under a pile of rotting logs, she reveals an entire ecosystem of insects and small creatures that you never knew existed. You're not the only one learning. Your siblings are picking up the same skills, but at different rates. Some are natural hunters, pouncing on anything that moves with deadly accuracy. Others are better at finding hidden food, using their noses to locate things buried underground. A few seem more interested in exploring than hunting, wandering off to investigate every new sight and sound. Your mother keeps everyone in line with a system of sounds and gestures that you're starting to understand. A sharp bark means danger, and everyone should freeze or run for cover. A low whine means follow closely and don't make noise. A series of clicks means it's safe to spread out and explore. She rarely has to repeat herself. The consequences of not paying attention in the wild are too serious for second chances. As the weeks pass, your confidence grows. You start to anticipate what your mother is going to show you, and sometimes you discover things on your own. You find a patch of berries that taste sweet and don't seem to upset your stomach. You learn that certain insects are easier to catch just after it rains, when they move slower and can't fly as well. You discover that following bird calls can lead you to food, either because the birds are eating something you can steal, or because they're warning about predators you should avoid. Your siblings are becoming individuals now, each with their own strengths and personality. One is aggressive, always first to claim food and quick to snap at anyone who gets in the way. Another is cautious, hanging back and observing before making any move. A third is curious to the point of recklessness, constantly getting into situations that require rescue. Your mother treats each of you differently, adjusting her teaching style to match your personality and abilities. The aggressive one gets lessons in patience and precision. The cautious one is encouraged to take more risks. The reckless one learns about consequences the hard way, with minimal intervention from your mother when their curiosity leads to minor scrapes and bruises. The world is getting bigger every day as your mother expands the range of your explorations. You travel further from the den, staying out longer, encountering new challenges and opportunities. You see other animals now, not just the small prey you've been learning to hunt. Deer bound through the forest, too big and fast for you to consider as food. Birds call from high in the trees, their songs carrying warnings and messages you don't understand yet. Some of these animals pay no attention to you and your family. Others watch carefully as you pass, ready to flee if you come too close. A few seem curious about these small creatures, learning to navigate their world, but none of them approach, and your mother makes sure you don't approach them either. The lessons get harder as you get older. Your mother stops making hunting look easy. Instead of demonstrating perfect technique, she lets you watch her fail sometimes. You see her miss a jump, lose prey to faster reflexes, and come back empty-handed after hours of searching. At first, this is confusing. Why isn't she showing you the right way to do things? Then you realize that failure is part of the right way. The world doesn't cooperate with perfect technique. Prey doesn't hold still while you line up the perfect pounce. Weather changes mid-hunt, turning solid ground into slippery mud. Other predators show up and steal your kill. Learning to handle disappointment and adapt to changing conditions is just as important as learning to catch food in the first place. Your first major failure comes when you're about 3 months old. You spot a rabbit sitting in a clearing, completely unaware of your presence. It's bigger than anything you've tried to catch before, but you feel confident. You've been practicing your stalking technique, and this seems like the perfect opportunity to prove yourself. You creep forward, keeping low, moving only when the rabbit's head is down. Everything goes according to plan until the final moment. You leap, claws extended, ready to pin your prize. But the rabbit sees you at the last second and bolts. Not only do you miss completely, but you land hard on your shoulder and tumble into a thorny bush. By the time you extract yourself, scratched and embarrassed, the rabbit is long gone. Your siblings saw the whole thing, and a couple of them make chittering sounds that you're pretty sure are laughter. Your mother doesn't react at all, just continues foraging nearby as if nothing happened. The message is clear. This is normal, this is expected, and you need to get used to it. But failure isn't the only lesson. Success brings its own challenges. A few days after the rabbit incident, you manage to catch a large beetle that puts up a significant fight. You're proud of yourself until you realize you don't know what to do with it. The beetle's shell is harder than anything you've encountered, and your teeth can't penetrate it. You spend several minutes wrestling with your prize, getting increasingly frustrated. Your mother watches for a while, then approaches and flips the beetle over with one paw. She shows you the soft underside, the vulnerable spots where your teeth can find purchase. It's a small lesson, but it teaches you something important. Catching prey is only the first step. Knowing how to process it efficiently is just as crucial. The seasons are changing now, and with them comes a new urgency to your mother's teaching. The air is getting cooler, the days are getting shorter, and food is becoming harder to find. Your mother's hunting trips take longer, and she comes back with smaller catches. Sometimes she returns with nothing at all, her coat wet from rain and her movements tired. You start to understand that the easy times are ending. Your mother pushes you and your siblings harder, expecting more independence and better results. When you find food, she makes you eat it immediately instead of saving some for later. When you discover a good hunting spot, she makes you remember exactly how to get back to it. When you encounter other animals, she teaches you to assess whether they're threats, competitors, or potential meals. The competition between you and your siblings intensifies. Food sharing becomes less common, and everyone learns to eat quickly before someone else can claim their portion. The aggressive sibling gets more aggressive, sometimes taking food away from others. The cautious one learns to hide when eating, finishing meals in secluded spots where they won't be disturbed. The curious one starts exploring further from the group, looking for resources that haven't been discovered yet. You find your own strategy somewhere in the middle. You're not aggressive enough to dominate the others, but you're not passive enough to get pushed around consistently. You learn to read the group dynamics and position yourself accordingly. When the aggressive sibling is distracted, you move in quickly to claim your share. When everyone else is focused on obvious food sources, you look for the less obvious ones they might miss. Your mother's behavior toward all of you starts to shift subtly. She's still protective when real danger appears, but she's less patient with minor disputes and complaints. When siblings fight over food, she's more likely to let them work it out themselves rather than intervening. When someone gets lost or confused during exploration, she gives them time to figure out the solution before offering help. This change becomes more pronounced as winter approaches. Your mother starts leaving you and your siblings alone for longer periods, sometimes disappearing for an entire day and night. The first time this happens, you and your siblings huddle together in the den, waiting anxiously for her return. When she finally comes back, she acts as if nothing unusual happened. The pattern continues, with the absences getting longer and more frequent. You realize that this is preparation for something, though you don't understand what yet. Your mother is forcing you to become more self-reliant, to depend less on her presence and protection. It's scary, but it's also oddly liberating. You and without her constant supervision, your siblings make decisions you wouldn't have made before. During one of these extended absences, you encounter another family of raccoon dogs. It's the first time you've seen others of your kind outside your immediate family, and the experience is both fascinating and tense. The other mother is smaller than yours, and her pups are slightly younger, but they're clearly thriving in their own territory. The meeting is brief and cautious. Both families keep their distance, assessing each other for threats or opportunities. The other mother makes a series of warning calls, establishing that this is her territory and you're not welcome to stay. Your group retreats without challenging her, but not before you get a good look at how another family operates. They seem more vocal than your family, communicating with a wider range of sounds and gestures. Their den is in a different type of location, under a fallen tree rather than in open ground. Their hunting style appears more collaborative, with the mother and pups working together to corner prey. These differences fascinate you, suggesting that there's more than one way to survive in the world. When your mother returns and you try to tell her about the encounter, she shows immediate interest. She follows your trail back toward where you met the other family, sniffing carefully and marking several trees along the way. She doesn't seem alarmed by their presence, but she's clearly establishing boundaries and making sure they understand the limits of their territory. This territorial awareness becomes part of your education. Your mother shows you the invisible lines that divide the landscape, teaching you to recognize scent markers and understand their meanings. Some marks are warnings, telling other animals to stay away. Others are information, communicating the age, sex, and health status of whoever left them. A few seem to be invitations, suggesting areas where different species can coexist peacefully. You learn to leave your own marks, though your scent is still too weak and juvenile to carry much authority. Your mother supervises these early attempts, correcting your technique and showing you the most effective locations. Trees at the intersection of trails, rocks near water sources, and the entrances to potential den sites are all prime real estate for scent marking. The complexity of this invisible communication system amazes you. Every animal in the area is constantly leaving messages for others, creating a network of information that flows through the landscape. Predators announce their presence and hunting success. Prey animals warn each other about dangers. Potential mates advertise their availability and fitness. It's like a constantly updating newspaper written in scent and pheromones. As autumn progresses, your mother's lessons take on a different tone. Instead of focusing on hunting techniques and territory, she starts teaching you about survival in harsh conditions. She shows you how to find shelter when the weather turns bad, how to conserve energy during lean times, and how to recognize the signs that warn of approaching storms. These lessons often involve discomfort. She leads you out in cold rain, making you find your own protection instead of immediately returning to the den. She makes you forage when you're not particularly hungry, teaching you to take advantage of food sources when they're available rather than waiting until you need them desperately. She shows you how to dig through snow and ice to reach cached food or find unfrozen water. Your siblings respond to these challenges differently. The aggressive one seems to thrive under pressure, becoming more focused and determined when conditions get tough. The cautious one struggles initially, but develops impressive problem solving skills, finding creative solutions to survival challenges. The curious one treats everything as an adventure, maintaining enthusiasm even when the lessons are unpleasant. You find yourself somewhere in the middle again, adapting steadily but not dramatically. You don't love the harsh conditions, but you don't panic when faced with them either. You learn to endure discomfort while staying alert for opportunities to improve your situation. It's a balanced approach that seems to serve you well. The first snow changes everything. The world transforms overnight from familiar territory into an alien landscape. Scents are muffled, sounds are different, and navigation becomes much more challenging. Your mother doesn't seem surprised by any of this, but for you and your siblings, it's like learning to live in a completely new environment. Food becomes scarce almost immediately. The insects and small creatures you've been learning to hunt either disappear entirely or become much harder to find. Your mother adapts by changing her hunting strategy, focusing on different prey species and using techniques you haven't seen before. She teaches you to track animals through snow, following the stories their footprints tell. Fresh tracks mean recent prey. Old tracks mean wasted effort. Deep tracks suggest heavy animals that might be worth pursuing. Light tracks might indicate prey that's too small to justify the energy expenditure of a chase through snow. The lessons in energy conservation become crucial now. Every movement costs more in winter conditions, and food provides less return on investment. Your mother shows you how to move efficiently through snow, how to rest in positions that conserve body heat, and how to judge whether a potential hunting opportunity is worth the effort it would require. Your sibling dynamics shift again under these new pressures. The aggressive one becomes more selective about when to assert dominance, conserving energy for truly important conflicts. The cautious one's careful planning becomes more valuable as mistakes become more costly. The curious one learns to channel their exploration drive more productively, investigating only the most promising opportunities. You adapt by becoming more observant, watching your mother and siblings carefully to learn from their successes and failures. You notice which strategies work best in different conditions, which mistakes lead to wasted energy, and which opportunities are most likely to pay off. It's a more analytical approach to survival than you've used before. Winter is teaching you that survival isn't just about individual skills and strength. It's also about timing, efficiency, and making smart decisions when resources are limited. The lessons your mother taught you during the easier seasons now reveal their true importance. The techniques that seemed unnecessarily complex in summer become essential tools for winter survival. As the coldest part of winter approaches, your mother's behavior becomes increasingly distant. She still shares the den with you and your siblings, but she spends more time alone and shows less interest in group activities. Her hunting trips become even longer, and when she returns, she's often too tired to interact much with any of you. You realize that something fundamental is about to change, though you don't yet understand what. The easy days of childhood are definitely over, but what comes next remains unclear. All you know for certain is that the skills your mother has taught you are about to be tested in ways you haven't experienced yet. The breaking point comes on a morning when the snow is deeper than you've ever seen it. Your mother gets up, stretches, and walks to the den entrance without looking back at any of you. She doesn't make the usual sounds that mean follow me or stay close. She just leaves, and something in the way she moves tells you this departure is different from all the others. Hours pass, then a full day, then another. Your siblings cluster together for warmth, but everyone knows what's happening even if no one wants to admit it. The aggressive sibling tries to take charge, barking orders and claiming the best spots in the den. The cautious one retreats to the deepest corner and barely moves. The curious one keeps going to the entrance, peering out hopefully for any sign of your mother's return. You find yourself making a decision that surprises you. Instead of waiting with the others, you venture outside alone. The world is harsh and unforgiving, but it's also full of opportunities for those brave enough to take them. Your mother taught you how to survive. Now it's time to prove you actually learned the lessons. Your first solo hunt is a disaster. You spot tracks leading to what looks like a promising burrow, but when you start digging, you discover it's been abandoned for weeks. The frozen ground is impossibly hard, and after an hour of fruitless effort, your paws are raw and bleeding. You've wasted precious energy and accomplished nothing. The old you might have given up and returned to the den to sulk. Instead, you analyze what went wrong. The tracks were too old, partially filled with snow that should have told you they weren't fresh. The burrow entrance showed no recent disturbance, no fresh scent marks. You were so eager to find food that you ignored obvious signs the site was worthless. It's a mistake you won't make again. Your second attempt goes better. You follow fresher tracks to a fallen log where something small has been foraging. You can't see your prey, but you can hear tiny scratching sounds from inside the rotting wood. Instead of attacking immediately, you take time to position yourself properly. When you finally strike, tearing through the soft wood with your claws, you come away with a fat grub that provides your first solo meal. It's not much, barely enough to take the edge off your hunger, but it represents something important. You didn't rely on your mother's skills or your siblings' help. You found this food through your own effort, using techniques you learned but adapted to your current situation. The sense of accomplishment is almost as satisfying as the meal itself. Over the following days, you develop a routine. You venture out during the warmer parts of the day, conserving energy by staying in the den when conditions are worst. You focus on prey that requires less energy to catch, insects, grubs, cached food from other animals. You avoid the larger, more challenging hunts that might leave you exhausted and empty-handed. Your siblings are making their own adjustments. The aggressive one tries to dominate the territory immediately around the den, claiming the best foraging spots and driving others away. It works initially, but the energy cost of constant territorial disputes starts to wear them down. The cautious one barely ventures outside at all, surviving on whatever food they can find near the den entrance. The curious sibling takes the opposite approach, ranging far from the den in search of new opportunities. They discover a garbage dump left by humans, full of discarded food that's still edible despite being frozen. It's a valuable find, but it's also dangerous territory. Humans sometimes visit the area, and their presence brings dogs and other threats. You try a different strategy, focusing on consistency rather than big scores. You map out a circuit of reliable food sources within a reasonable distance of the den, a stream that stays partially unfrozen, where you can sometimes catch slow-moving fish, a grove of trees where birds roost, occasionally dropping seeds and sometimes falling prey to your improved hunting skills. a rocky area where small mammals shelter, offering opportunities for patient hunters. This methodical approach serves you well through the worst of winter. You're not thriving, but you're surviving, which is more than many animals can manage during this harsh season. Your body adapts to the constant challenge, becoming leaner but stronger. Your senses sharpen as you learn to detect subtle signs of food or danger. Your decision making improves as every choice carries real consequences. Spring arrives gradually, almost imperceptibly at first. The snow starts melting in sunny spots, creating muddy patches that smell of earth and growing things. Birds return from wherever they spent the winter, filling the air with songs you haven't heard in months. Most importantly, food becomes abundant again as insects emerge and small mammals become active. This seasonal abundance creates new month's challenges. After of scarcity, you have to adjust to having multiple hunting opportunities at once. Do you pursue the sure thing or gamble on something bigger? Do you eat immediately or try to cache food for later? These are luxury problems compared to winter survival, but they still require careful decision making. Your siblings are facing their own spring adjustments. The aggressive one has learned that dominance alone isn't enough. They need to back up their attitude with actual hunting skills. The cautious one becomes more adventurous as conditions improve, finally venturing further from the den to explore new territories. The curious one continues their wide-ranging explorations, but with better judgment about which risks are worth taking. As the weather warms and food becomes plentiful, you notice changes in your own behavior that surprise you. You're becoming more territorial, less willing to share prime hunting spots, even with your siblings. You're also more aware of scents that might indicate potential mates, though you don't fully understand what these instincts mean yet. The den that sheltered your family through winter starts feeling crowded and uncomfortable. You spend more time outside, sometimes not returning for entire nights. Your siblings are doing the same, each of you gradually establishing independent routines and territories. The family unit that once seemed permanent is dissolving naturally as you all mature into self-sufficient adults. One morning, you wake up and realize you haven't seen your siblings in several days. The aggressive one was last spotted heading toward the stream territory they'd been trying to claim. The cautious one disappeared in the direction of a dense thicket that offered excellent hiding spots. The curious one never came back from one of their long-range scouting expeditions. You feel a moment of sadness at this realization, but it's quickly replaced by something else. Freedom, maybe, or a possibility. The world stretches out around you, full of territories to explore and claim. You've learned everything your mother could teach you, survived your first winter, and proven you can find food and shelter independently. Now it's time to discover what comes next. Your territory expands as spring progresses. You claim a section of woodland that includes the stream, the rocky shelter area, and several promising foraging sites. Other animals challenge your boundaries occasionally, but you've grown confident enough to defend what's yours. Your scent marks become stronger and more authoritative as you mature, commanding respect from competitors. The abundance of spring also brings new types of prey. Nesting birds offer eggs that are rich in nutrients, but require careful timing to steal. Young mammals venture out from their own dens, providing opportunities for a patient hunter. Fish become more active in the warming water, though your fishing technique still needs improvement. You discover that hunting isn't just about individual skill anymore. The territory you've claimed puts you in competition and cooperation with other predators. Sometimes you can steal kills from less aggressive animals. Other times, You have to abandon your own catches to avoid confrontation with something bigger and more dangerous. A fox tries to establish overlapping territory with yours, leading to several tense encounters. You're roughly the same size, but foxes are specialized predators, while you're more of a generalist. The competition forces both of you to become more efficient and creative in your hunting strategies. Eventually, you work out an informal arrangement where you focus on different types of prey and hunt at different times of day. This negotiation teaches you something important about survival. It's not always about dominance or submission. Sometimes, the best strategy is finding ways to coexist that benefit everyone involved. The fox gets the small mammals it prefers. You get the insects, fish, and scavenged food that suit your broader diet. Neither of you has to waste energy on constant territorial battles. As summer arrives, your body undergoes changes that bring new instincts and behaviors. You become more interested in scent marks left by other raccoon dogs, especially ones that smell different from your family. These scents trigger urges you don't fully understand yet, but they pull at you with increasing insistence. You start ranging further from your established territory, following these intriguing scent trails even when they lead you away from familiar hunting grounds. The logical part of your brain knows this is inefficient and potentially dangerous, but the compulsion is too strong to ignore. Something fundamental is shifting in your priorities. During one of these explorations, you encounter another raccoon dog for the first time since leaving your family. It's a female, slightly smaller than you, but moving with confidence through what's clearly her own well-established territory. She notices you immediately and responds with a mixture of caution and curiosity that mirrors your own feelings. The initial meeting is awkward and tentative. Both of you are prepared to fight or flee depending on how the situation develops. You circle each other at a safe distance, reading body language and scent cues that carry information about intentions, health, and availability. The communication is complex and mostly instinctual, drawing on knowledge you didn't know you possessed. She makes the first move toward actual interaction, approaching close enough to sniff your scent directly. You hold still, letting her gather whatever information she's seeking while trying to interpret her own signals. The encounter is brief, just a few minutes of cautious investigation before she retreats to a safe distance. But something important has happened during those few minutes. You've made contact with a potential mate, established that you're both healthy adults, and confirmed mutual interest in further interaction. The meeting ends with both of you returning to your respective territories, but you know you'll seek each other out again. Over the following weeks, these encounters become more frequent and less cautious. You learn her schedule and territory boundaries. She learns yours. You start leaving scent marks that are clearly intended for her to find, and she responds with her own carefully placed signals. It's a courtship conducted through an elaborate system of chemical communication and territorial negotiation. The relationship develops slowly, built on mutual respect and careful assessment, rather than dramatic displays or aggressive competition. You prove your worth as a potential partner through hunting success, territorial management, and the subtle indicators of health and genetic fitness that she's programmed to evaluate. Eventually, the careful courtship leads to mating, though the process is nothing like the romanticized version you might expect. It's brief, practical, and focused entirely on reproduction rather than emotional bonding. Afterward, you both return to your separate territories and independent lives, though you maintain occasional contact throughout the season. As autumn approaches again, You face the yearly cycle of preparation and scarcity with the confidence of experience. You know what winter will bring, and you know you have the skills to survive it. Your territory is well established, your hunting techniques are refined, and your understanding of the seasonal rhythms is complete. But this year brings a new responsibility. Somewhere in the territory that your mate controls, young raccoon dogs are being born and raised with genetic contributions from both of you. You'll never meet them or participate in their upbringing, but their existence represents a different kind of success than simple survival. Your genes will continue into the next generation, carried by offspring who will face the same challenges you've overcome. They'll learn to hunt, establish territories, survive winters, find mates, and produce young of their own. The cycle that began with your birth in a dark burrow continues through them, extending your genetic legacy into an uncertain future. As winter returns and food becomes scarce again, you settle into the familiar rhythm of survival and endurance. You've completed one full cycle of adult life, establishing independence, claiming territory, finding to the next a mate, and contributing generation. But this is far from the end of your story. The seasons blur together as you settle into the rhythm of adult life. Each year brings the same patterns: spring abundance, summer mating opportunities, autumn preparation, and winter endurance. But within this cycle, you're constantly adapting and improving. Your hunting techniques become more sophisticated, your territory management more efficient, and your understanding of the complex social dynamics around you deeper. You encounter other raccoon dogs regularly now, some friendly, others competitive. There's an older male who controls prime territory upstream from yours. He's larger and more experienced, but age is starting to slow him down. You watch him carefully, learning from his techniques while also assessing his weaknesses. Territory doesn't stay with the same owner forever. Eventually, everyone gets displaced by someone younger and stronger. A younger female establishes territory adjacent to yours, fresh from her first winter of independence. She's inexperienced but eager, making mistakes that remind you of your own early attempts at solo survival. Sometimes you observe her failed hunts with something that might be amusement. Other times, when she's struggling with a challenge you've mastered, you feel an odd impulse to help that you don't fully understand. Your relationship with your original mate continues in a casual, seasonal pattern. You encounter each other during breeding season, engage in the familiar courtship ritual, mate, and then return to separate lives. It's efficient and successful, but there's no emotional attachment beyond mutual recognition and respect for each other's capabilities. One spring, she doesn't appear at the usual meeting spots. You investigate her territory and find fresh scent marks from a different male, one you don't recognize. The evidence tells a clear story. She's found a new partner, probably one with better territory or superior genetic markers. You feel a brief moment of something that might be disappointment, but it passes quickly. This is how the system works. You find a new mate that same season, a female who recently displaced the previous occupant of territory downstream from yours. She's aggressive and confident, qualities that translate into healthy offspring and successful territorial defense. The courtship is more intense than with your previous mate, involving displays of hunting prowess and territorial marking that border on competitive. This new relationship produces offspring that survive their first winter, something you know because you occasionally encounter their scent marks as they establish their own territories. They spread out across the landscape, some moving far enough away that you'll never encounter them again, others settling close enough that you'll compete with them for resources in years to come. The cycle of territorial competition intensifies as you age. Younger raccoon dogs challenge your boundaries more frequently, testing whether you still have the strength and determination to defend what you've claimed. Most of these challenges are settled through scent marking and posturing, but occasionally they escalate to actual confrontation. Your first serious territorial fight comes in your 4th year. A young male, probably fresh from his first successful winter, decides that your prime hunting spots should belong to him. He starts by leaving aggressive scent marks near your den, then progresses to hunting in your territory during your active hours. When warnings fail to deter him, physical confrontation becomes inevitable. The fight is brief but vicious. He's younger and more energetic, but you have experience and intimate knowledge of the terrain. You use these advantages to pin him in an unfavorable position, then make it clear that continuing the conflict will result in serious injury for both of you. He makes the smart choice and retreats, but not before you've acquired several painful scratches that take weeks to heal properly. This victory establishes your reputation among the local raccoon dog population. Challenges become less frequent and less aggressive. Other animals recognize that you're an established territorial holder who won't be easily displaced. The respect you've earned translates into more secure access to resources and better mating opportunities. But respect has to be maintained through continued competence. A territorial holder who becomes complacent or lets their skills deteriorate will quickly find themselves challenged by hungrier, more motivated competitors. You adapt by constantly refining your techniques and expanding your knowledge of the area. You discover new food sources that other predators have overlooked. A section of marsh that floods seasonally, creating ideal conditions for certain types of invertebrates. An old human structure where bats roost, occasionally providing opportunities for a patient hunter. A grove where fruit trees drop offerings that supplement your diet during lean periods. These discoveries give you advantages that extend beyond simple nutrition. Animals who know about more diverse food sources can survive disruptions that might devastate specialists. When disease wipes out the local rabbit population, you switch to increased fishing and insect hunting. When drought affects your usual water sources, you know about backup locations that remain reliable. Your success attracts attention from unexpected sources. A pair of ravens begins following you during hunting expeditions, waiting to scavenge scraps from your kills. Initially, you try to drive them off, annoyed by their bold opportunism, but you gradually realize that the arrangement benefits everyone involved. The raven's aerial perspective helps them spot prey that you might miss from ground level. Their harsh calls alert you to approaching predators or competitors. In exchange, they get access to food scraps and leftovers that you can't consume entirely. It's an unusual partnership, but it proves remarkably effective. This relationship with the ravens teaches you something important about survival strategies. Sometimes the best approach isn't competition or dominance, but cooperation with unexpected allies. The ravens aren't potential mates or direct competitors for your resources. They occupy a different ecological niche, which makes mutually beneficial cooperation possible. You begin looking for other opportunities to apply this principle. A family of badgers controls territory that overlaps slightly with yours, creating potential for conflict over den sites and certain types of prey. Instead of fighting for dominance, you observe their patterns and adjust your activities to minimize direct competition. The badgers are most active at different times than you prefer, and they focus on prey that requires digging skills you haven't developed. By hunting when they're resting and focusing on prey they ignore, You avoid most territorial disputes while still accessing resources in the overlapping area. Both species benefit from this informal arrangement. Your reputation for intelligent problem solving spreads through the animal community in ways you don't fully understand. Other predators seem less likely to challenge you directly, perhaps recognizing that you're not easily intimidated or outmaneuvered. Prey animals give your territory a wider berth, making hunting more challenging, but also reducing the energy you waste on failed attempts. This dynamic creates an interesting balance. You have to work harder to find prey, but the prey you do find is less likely to escape through familiarity with your hunting patterns. Your success rate improves even as the total number of hunting opportunities decreases. Quality replaces quantity as your primary survival strategy. As you enter your 6th year, you notice changes in your body that signal the beginning of middle age. You're not as fast as you once were, and you can't maintain intense activity for as long. Recovery from injuries takes longer, and you feel the effects of weather changes more acutely. These changes force you to adapt your survival strategies once again. Direct confrontation becomes less appealing as your physical capabilities decline. You rely more heavily on intelligence, experience, and strategic thinking to maintain your competitive edge. Instead of overpowering competitors, you outmaneuver them. Instead of chasing down fast prey, you focus on species that require patience and technique rather than speed. Your territorial boundaries shift as you cede some of the more difficult to defend areas to younger competitors, while consolidating control over locations that play to your strengths. A rocky outcrop that provides excellent den sites, but requires climbing skills that favor experience over athleticism. A section of wetland where successful fishing depends more on timing and technique than reflexes. These adjustments prove successful in maintaining your access to resources despite your declining physical condition. You're not dominating through strength anymore, but you're still thriving through intelligence and adaptability. The transition from physical to mental dominance feels natural, like a progression that was always inevitable. Your mating success continues despite your age, partly because female raccoon dogs evaluate potential partners on multiple criteria beyond simple physical prowess. Your established territory, proven survival skills, and track record of producing successful offspring make you an attractive choice for females who prioritize genetic quality over raw strength. The offspring from these later matings benefit from your accumulated knowledge and refined techniques, even though you'll never directly teach them. The genetic contributions you provide carry information about successful survival strategies, encoded in instincts and capabilities that will serve them throughout their lives. You notice that some of the younger raccoon dogs in the area exhibit behaviors and preferences that echo your own innovations. They show interest in the same unusual food sources you discovered, use similar territorial marking patterns, and even display comparable tolerance for cooperation with other species. Whether this represents genetic inheritance or learned behavior spreading through the population, it suggests that your influence extends beyond your direct descendants. As autumn arrives in your 7th year, you face the seasonal preparation with a mixture of confidence and concern. You know exactly what winter will demand, and you have proven strategies for meeting those demands. But you also recognize that your margin for error is shrinking as your physical capabilities continue to decline. The preparation becomes more methodical and deliberate than in previous years. You spend more time caching food in secure locations, building up reserves that can sustain you through periods when hunting becomes difficult. You improve your den with additional insulation and backup entrances, creating a shelter that will protect you even if harsh weather confines you for extended periods. Your relationship with the ravens proves especially valuable during this preparation phase. Their ability to spot and remember food sources from the air helps you locate caching opportunities that you might miss from ground level. Their warning calls about approaching weather systems give you advance notice to seek shelter or complete important preparations. When winter arrives, it feels different from previous years, not necessarily harsher in terms of weather conditions, but more challenging because of your reduced reserves of strength and resilience. Tasks that once seemed routine now require careful planning and energy management. You can't afford to waste effort on low probability hunting attempts or unnecessary territorial disputes. This constraint forces you to become even more selective and strategic in your activities. You hunt only when conditions are optimal and prey availability is high. You avoid confrontations unless absolutely necessary to defend critical resources. You spend more time resting and conserving energy between periods of essential activity. The strategy works, but just barely. You survive the winter, but you emerge from it noticeably thinner and weaker than in previous years. Spring recovery takes longer, and you don't regain all of the condition you lost during the harsh months. The cumulative effects of aging are becoming impossible to ignore. Your territorial holdings shrink as younger competitors successfully challenge your control over marginal areas. You don't fight as hard to retain territory that was always difficult to defend, focusing instead on maintaining secure control over your core areas. This strategic retreat preserves your energy for the conflicts that really matter. The loss of territory reduces your access to some food sources, but it also reduces the energy you spend on territorial maintenance. The trade-off is acceptable as long as your remaining territory provides enough resources to sustain you. You adapt by becoming even more efficient in your use of available resources. Your mating opportunities also decline as your territory shrinks and your physical condition becomes less impressive to potential partners. Younger females prefer males with larger territories and more obvious signs of health and vigor. You still attract occasional interest from older females or those whose options are limited, but competition for mates becomes more challenging. Despite these difficulties, you continue to find ways to thrive within your new limitations. Your accumulated knowledge remains valuable, your refined techniques still work effectively, and your understanding of the seasonal cycles helps you anticipate and prepare for challenges. Age brings wisdom that partially compensates for declining physical capabilities. The partnership with the ravens becomes even more important as your independent hunting becomes less reliable. They lead you to food sources you might not find on your own, and their scavenging reduces waste from your kills by ensuring that nothing edible goes unused. The relationship has evolved into genuine mutualism that benefits both species. You also develop new relationships with other aging predators who face similar challenges. An old fox whose territory borders yours begins sharing information about food sources and weather patterns. Neither of you poses a significant threat to the other anymore, which makes cooperation possible in ways that weren't feasible during your competitive prime. These alliances don't replace the territorial system that governs younger animals, but they create a parallel network of cooperation among individuals who have moved beyond direct competition for mates and prime territory. It's a different way of organizing survival strategies, adapted to the realities of aging in a competitive environment. As you enter your 8th year, you realize that you've become one of the older residents of your area. Most of the raccoon dogs you encounter now are younger than you, and some are young enough to be your offspring or even grand offspring. Your accumulated experience makes you a senior member of the local community, though this status comes with mixed benefits. Younger animals sometimes seek to establish their reputations by challenging you, viewing you as a target whose defeat would demonstrate their readiness to claim prime territory. These challenges are mostly posturing and scent marking rather than direct confrontation, but they still require energy and attention to address properly. Other young animals seem to recognize your experience and observe your behavior as if learning from your techniques. You notice them copying your hunting strategies, territorial marking patterns, and even your unusual alliances with other species. Whether they understand what they're copying or simply recognize successful behavior patterns, this imitation suggests that your innovations are spreading through the population. The respect you receive from some quarters contrasts sharply with the challenges from others, creating a complex social dynamic that you navigate with increasing skill. You've learned to distinguish between serious threats that require decisive response and mere testing that can be deflected through confident posturing. Your physical decline continues, but at a gradual pace that allows for ongoing adaptation. You develop arthritis in your joints that makes certain movements painful, but you adjust your hunting techniques to minimize the problematic motions. Your vision becomes less sharp, but your hearing remains acute, and your sense of smell actually seems to improve with age. These sensory changes alter ways. You rely your hunting strategies in interesting more heavily on sound and scent to locate prey, techniques that work better for some species than others. Your success with small mammals that move through underground tunnels improves because their sounds and scents are easier to detect than their visual signatures. The seasonal cycles become more predictable as your experience accumulates. You know exactly when different food sources will become available, which weather patterns indicate good or poor hunting conditions, and how to position yourself to take advantage of opportunities that occur at specific times. This predictive ability helps compensate for your reduced ability to react quickly to unexpected situations. Your ninth winter proves to be the most challenging yet. The weather is harsh, but more importantly, your physical reserves are at their lowest point ever. You spend most of the season in or near your den, venturing out only when absolutely necessary to find food or water. The ravens become crucial allies, bringing you information about nearby opportunities and even dropping small food items near your den entrance. Recovery from this winter is slow and incomplete. You emerge thinner and weaker than ever before, and spring doesn't restore your condition to previous levels. For the first time, you seriously consider the possibility that your survival might depend on finding new strategies that don't rely on physical capabilities at all. The solution comes from an unexpected source. A family of young raccoon dogs establishes territory near yours, and their inexperience leads to frequent mistakes in hunting and territorial management. Instead of viewing them as competitors, you begin observing their activities and occasionally positioning yourself to benefit from their errors. When they flush prey that escapes their inexperienced attacks, you're positioned to intercept it. When they abandon partially cached food because they haven't learned proper storage techniques, you recover and consume what they've wasted. When their aggressive territorial marking attracts the attention of larger predators, you avoid the area until the danger passes. This strategy of benefiting from others' mistakes requires minimal energy expenditure while providing access to resources you couldn't obtain through direct hunting. It's a form of social parasitism, but one that doesn't significantly harm the host population. The young raccoon dogs learn from their errors regardless of whether you benefit from them. Your relationship with the environment becomes increasingly contemplative as your active engagement with survival challenges decreases. You spend more time simply observing the cycles of life and death that play out around you, watching new generations of animals make the same discoveries and mistakes that you experienced years ago. There's something peaceful about this shift from active participant to experienced observer. You're no longer fighting desperately for every advantage, no longer driven by the urgent demands of territorial competition and mate selection. Your survival depends more on wisdom and adaptation than on strength and aggression. The partnership with the ravens has evolved into something resembling friendship, though that term might not apply to interspecies relationships based primarily on mutual benefit. They visit your territory regularly, sharing information and occasionally bringing offerings of food. Sugis. You provide them with predictable scavenging opportunities and a safe place to rest between foraging expeditions. These relationships with other species have become more important to your survival than relationships with other raccoon dogs. The territorial system that governs interaction within your species creates barriers to cooperation, but relationships across species boundaries can be based on different principles that allow for genuine mutual benefit. As your 10th year begins, you've achieved something remarkable for a wild animal. You've survived long enough to become elderly. Most raccoon dogs don't live beyond 5 or 6 years in natural conditions. Your longevity represents a combination of intelligence, adaptability, and considerable luck in avoiding the various hazards that claim most members of your species. Your territory has shrunk to a core area that you can defend and maintain with minimal energy expenditure. It's not prime habitat, but it provides adequate resources for an animal with modest needs and low activity levels. Younger competitors no longer view you as a significant threat, which reduces the frequency of territorial challenges. Your hunting has become highly selective, focusing almost exclusively on prey that can be caught with minimal effort and risk. You've developed expertise in techniques that favor experience over physical capability, becoming remarkably skilled at intercepting prey that other predators flush but fail to catch. The seasonal rhythms that once demanded intense activity now pass more quietly. You prepare for winter with careful caching and den maintenance, but without the frantic energy of earlier years. You survive harsh months through patience and conservation rather than aggressive foraging. You emerge from winter thinner, but still capable of independent survival. Your mating days are behind you, but your genetic legacy continues through offspring and their descendants scattered across the landscape. Some of them exhibit innovations and behaviors that originated with you, ensuring that your contributions to raccoon dog survival strategies will persist beyond your individual lifespan. The knowledge you've accumulated about local conditions, food sources, and survival techniques represents a valuable resource that unfortunately can't be directly transmitted to other members of your species. Each generation must learn these lessons independently, though some information does spread through observation and imitation. As you settle into what may be your final years, you face the future with a mixture of acceptance and continued curiosity about what each day might bring. You've mastered the art of survival in a challenging environment, adapted to the change that age brings, and found ways to thrive even as your capabilities decline. The story of your life continues, though its most dramatic chapters may be in the past. Your 11th year arrives with changes you didn't expect. The familiar ache in your joints has become constant now, making movement deliberate and careful. But there's something else, a restlessness that surprises you. Despite your physical limitations, your mind remains sharp, perhaps sharper than ever. You notice details in your environment that younger animals miss entirely, patterns in behavior and seasonal timing that only come with years of careful observation. The young raccoon dogs whose mistakes you've been exploiting have matured into competent hunters. Their errors become less frequent, and the opportunities they provide start drying up. You need a new strategy, and you find it in an unexpected place, the human world that borders your territory. Chistas, a small human settlement, sits at the edge of your range, something you've always avoided. But desperation makes you bold. You venture closer than ever before, studying the strange patterns of human activity. They discard food with remarkable regularity, throwing away items that still hold nutritional value. They maintain gardens full of edible plants and attract birds and small mammals with feeders and water sources. Your first raid on human territory is terrifying and exhilarating. You wait until deep night, when the strange lights in their dens go dark and the air fills with the sounds of human sleep. You approach their waste containers, using techniques developed over years of scavenging. The smells are overwhelming, some appetizing, others repulsive, all foreign and complex. The food you find there is unlike anything in your natural diet. Some items are wrapped in materials you can't identify. Others are mixed with substances that seem artificial. You're cautious, taking small amounts and testing them carefully before consuming larger quantities. Your digestive system, adapted to a varied wild diet, handles most of these strange foods without difficulty. The success of this first human-focused foraging expedition leads to others. You develop a schedule that avoids human activity periods, learning their routines with the same precision you once applied to track and prey animals. You discover which containers hold the most promising food, which areas are safest to approach, and how to retreat quickly if detected. The abundance available from human sources is staggering compared to natural foraging. In a single successful raid, you can gather more food than a full day of traditional hunting might provide. The energy efficiency is remarkable, minimal physical exertion for maximum caloric return. It's a survival strategy that plays perfectly to your current limitations. But this new food source comes with unique risks. Humans react unpredictably to wildlife intrusion. Some ignore your presence entirely, others attempt aggressive deterrence. You learn to read the signs that indicate which humans pose threats and which can be safely ignored. Dogs present a more consistent danger, their keen senses detecting your presence even when humans remain oblivious. Your relationship with the ravens becomes even more valuable in this new environment. They've been exploiting human food sources for generations and understand the risks and opportunities better than you do. They guide you to the most productive locations and warn you about dangers you might not recognize. In return, you share access to food sources and provide ground-level security while they forage from above. The shift to human-supplemented foraging changes your entire daily routine. Natural hunting becomes secondary, something you do to maintain skills and vary your diet rather than for primary sustenance. You spend more time resting and observing, less time in the exhausting search for wild prey. Your physical condition stabilizes and even improves slightly, as reliable nutrition reduces the stress on your aging body. This new lifestyle brings you into contact with other animals who have made similar adaptations. An old fox has been raiding human territory for years, developing sophisticated techniques for accessing secured food sources. A family of opossums has established permanent residence near human dwellings, thriving on the abundant waste and occasional direct provisioning. These encounters with successful human-adapted animals teach you that your species' traditional survival strategies aren't the only path to longevity. Flexibility and willingness to exploit new opportunities matter more than adherence to ancestral patterns. The animals who survive longest are those who adapt most readily to changing conditions. Your reputation in the local wildlife community undergoes another transformation. Instead of being seen as a declining territorial holder, you become recognized as an innovative problem solver who has found ways to thrive despite age-related limitations. Younger animals observe your techniques with interest, though few are bold enough to attempt human territory exploitation themselves. The seasonal cycles that once dominated your existence become less important as human food sources provide year-round abundance. You still prepare for winter and adjust your activities based on weather conditions, but the desperate urgency of traditional survival is largely absent. You can afford to be selective about when and how you forage, choosing optimal conditions rather than accepting whatever opportunities arise. Your 12th year brings a new challenge when human activity in your area increases significantly. Construction begins on new structures, bringing noise, lights, and disturbance that disrupts your carefully developed routines. The familiar food sources become less accessible as human security measures intensify in response to increased wildlife activity. You adapt by expanding your range, exploring human settlements further from your traditional territory. The longer travel distances are taxing for your aging body, but the diversity of available resources makes the effort worthwhile. Each human community has different waste disposal patterns, different food preferences, and different tolerance levels for wildlife intrusion. This expansion brings you into contact with urban adapted members of your own species for the first time. These raccoon dogs have lived their entire lives in close proximity to humans, developing behaviors and capabilities that differ significantly from their wild counterparts. They're bolder, more innovative, and remarkably successful at exploiting human resources. The urban raccoon dogs initially view you as competition, but they quickly recognize that your age and experience offer advantages they lack. You understand natural food sources that they've never learned to exploit, and you have wilderness survival skills that complement their human-focused adaptations. An informal cooperation develops where you share information about both natural and artificial food sources. This relationship teaches you that survival strategies continue evolving throughout life. The techniques that served you well as a territorial young adult were appropriate for that life stage, but they're not the only valid approaches to survival. Age brings the freedom to experiment with new methods precisely because the old strategies are no longer as effective. Your physical decline continues, but at a pace that allows for ongoing adaptation. Your hearing begins to fade, making it harder to detect approaching dangers or locate prey by sound. But your sense of smell remains acute, and you develop enhanced techniques for gathering information through scent analysis. You can determine the age, health, and recent activities of other animals with remarkable precision. The partnership with the ravens becomes even more crucial as your sensory capabilities decline. They serve as your eyes and ears, alerting you to opportunities and dangers that you might miss. The relationship has evolved beyond simple mutual benefit into something resembling genuine cooperation, with both parties actively working to support each other's survival. Your den requires more maintenance, as your physical condition makes it harder to regulate body temperature effectively. You spend considerable time improving insulation, creating draft barriers, and establishing multiple chambers for different purposes. The den becomes less of a simple shelter and more of a complex life support system designed to compensate for your physical limitations. The urban raccoon dogs share techniques for den construction that incorporate human made materials. Discarded fabrics provide excellent insulation. Plastic sheeting creates waterproof barriers, and various containers offer storage solutions for cached food. Your den becomes a hybrid of natural construction and human technology, optimized for the needs of an aging animal. Your diet becomes increasingly diverse as you learn to process foods that would have been inedible or dangerous in your younger years. Human food preparation techniques, cooking, preserving, combining ingredients, create nutritional opportunities that don't exist in nature. You develop the ability to digest and benefit from foods that your ancestors never encountered. This dietary expansion has unexpected health benefits. Some human foods contain nutrients that are rare or absent in natural diets, potentially supporting better health in old age than would be possible through traditional foraging alone. Your coat remains reasonably thick, your energy levels stabilize, and your mental acuity continues to impress observers. Your 13th year begins with a significant change in your social status. The younger raccoon dogs in your area no longer challenge your territorial claims, not because you're still formidable, but because you've transcended the traditional territorial system entirely. You don't compete for the same resources they need, and your success doesn't diminish their opportunities. This shift allows for relationships with younger animals that would have been impossible during your competitive years. You observe their hunting attempts with something resembling benevolence, occasionally positioning yourself to benefit from their mistakes without interfering with their learning process. Your presence becomes tolerated and sometimes even welcomed by animals who might once have viewed you as a threat. The seasonal rhythms continue, but with less impact on your daily activities. Spring abundance is nice but not crucial when human food sources provide consistent nutrition. Winter scarcity is manageable when you have reliable access to sheltered foraging sites. Summer heat is less problematic when you can adjust your activity schedule to avoid the worst conditions. Your exploration of human territory expands to include areas you would never have dared to approach in earlier years. Business districts with their concentrated food service waste, residential neighborhoods with their gardens and pet food, industrial areas with their unique opportunities and dangers. Each environment requires different skills and offers different rewards. The complexity of navigating human-dominated landscapes provides intellectual stimulation that partially compensates for the reduced challenge of traditional survival. You develop mental maps of safe routes, timing strategies for avoiding detection, and risk assessment protocols for evaluating new opportunities. Your brain remains active and engaged even as your body becomes less capable. Your relationship with the environment becomes increasingly contemplative. You spend hours simply observing the interactions between human and natural systems, watching how different species adapt to anthropogenic changes. Some thrive, others struggle, and a few disappear entirely. Your own success represents one possible adaptation pathway among many. The ravens that have been your partners for years begin showing signs of age themselves. Their flights become less energetic, their calls less frequent, and their interest in exploration diminishes. You find yourself in the unusual position of being the more active partner in a relationship that once depended on their mobility and aerial perspective. This role reversal leads to new cooperation strategies. You share your ground-level discoveries with the aging ravens, providing them with information about food sources they might not be able to locate independently. They continue to offer aerial surveillance and weather prediction, but the relationship becomes more balanced as both parties contribute according to their current capabilities. Your 14th year brings changes that signal the approach of life's final phase. Movement becomes increasingly painful, and you spend more time resting between activities. Your appetite decreases, though whether this is due to reduced energy needs or declining digestive efficiency is unclear. You sleep more and dream frequently, often revisiting memories of territories and encounters from years past. The human food sources that have sustained you remain accessible, but you become more selective about which opportunities to pursue. The energy cost of long distance travel to productive sites must be weighed against the nutritional value of what you're likely to find. You focus on the most reliable sources within the smallest possible range. Your den becomes your primary environment, with foraging expeditions becoming shorter and less frequent. You invest considerable effort in stockpiling non-perishable foods within easy reach of your shelter, creating caches that can sustain you through periods when leaving the den becomes impractical. The urban raccoon dogs continue to visit occasionally, bringing news of changes in the human settlements and updates on food source availability. These social connections become increasingly important as your independent mobility decreases. The information they provide helps you make informed decisions about when and where to focus your limited energy. Your physical condition continues declining, but at a pace that allows for gradual adaptation rather than sudden crisis. You develop techniques for moving that minimize pain, sleeping positions that reduce stiffness, and feeding strategies that accommodate reduced appetite. Each challenge receives a thoughtful response based on years of problem-solving experience. The seasonal changes continue to affect your environment, but your response to them becomes more passive. Instead of actively preparing for winter through extensive caching and den improvement, you make modest adjustments and rely more heavily on your established stockpiles and improved shelter. Spring doesn't trigger the same urge to expand activities and explore new territories. Your relationship with the local wildlife community shifts again as your reduced activity level makes you less visible to other animals. You become something of a legend, the old raccoon dog who found ways to survive long past the normal lifespan, who adapted to human presence instead of avoiding it, who developed innovative techniques that younger animals attempt to copy. The ravens that have been your companions for so many years begin to fail more noticeably. Their visits become less frequent, their contributions to your survival less significant. You realize that these partnerships, like all relationships, have natural lifespans that don't necessarily align with the participants' individual longevity. Your memory becomes both clearer and more selective as you age. Recent events sometimes fade quickly, but distant memories from your youth return with surprising vividness. You recall your mother's lessons, your first successful hunts, the establishment of your original territory, and the early years of independence with a clarity that makes them feel almost present. These memories provide comfort during the increasingly long periods of rest and inactivity. You revisit successful strategies from earlier years, analyzing what made them effective and how they might apply to current challenges. Your accumulated experience becomes a resource to be mined for insights and solutions. Your appetite continues to decline, but you maintain adequate nutrition by focusing on high-quality foods that provide maximum benefit for minimal consumption. The diverse diet made possible by human food sources allows you to be selective in ways that wouldn't be possible with natural foraging alone. The approach of your 15th year finds you spending most of your time in or immediately adjacent to your den. Foraging expeditions become rare events requiring careful planning and considerable recovery time. Your world shrinks to encompass only the essential resources within a very limited range. But within these constraints, you continue to find satisfaction in small discoveries and minor innovations. You develop new techniques for processing foods that accommodate your changing digestive capabilities. You improve your shelter's comfort and efficiency through small modifications that require minimal energy investment. Your social interactions become precious and memorable events rather than routine occurrences. The visits from urban raccoon dogs bring news of the outside world and reminders of the broader community you're still connected to. These conversations provide intellectual stimulation and emotional connection that help maintain your interest in continued survival. The ravens that have been your partners for so long make increasingly infrequent appearances. When they do visit, the meetings are subdued affairs marked by mutual recognition of shared aging and declining capabilities. You share food when you have it. They provide what information they can, but both parties understand that the active phase of your partnership is ending. Your sleep patterns change dramatically as your need for activity decreases. You spend long periods in a state that's neither fully awake nor completely asleep, resting while remaining alert to potential dangers or opportunities. This altered consciousness allows for extended rest while maintaining the vigilance necessary for survival. The human settlements around you continue to change and expand, but these developments have less impact on your life as your range of activity shrinks. You've established sustainable access to the resources you need within your limited territory, and changes beyond that boundary are increasingly irrelevant to your daily survival. Your physical condition stabilizes at a level that allows for continued independent survival, though with significant limitations. You've found ways to meet your basic needs despite reduced mobility, declining strength, and various age-related challenges. The key has been accepting these limitations while finding creative ways to work within them. The approach of your final years brings a sense of completion rather than desperation. You've survived far longer than most members of your species, adapted to challenges that would have defeated younger animals, and found ways to thrive in an environment that many of your kind never learned to navigate successfully. Your legacy extends beyond your direct offspring to include the innovations and adaptations that other animals have observed and copied. The techniques you developed for exploiting human food sources, the partnership strategies you pioneered with other species, and the survival adaptations you created for aging animals all represent contributions to the broader community's knowledge base. The story of your life continues, though its pace has slowed considerably, and its scope has narrowed to encompass only the most essential elements. You've mastered the art of survival across multiple life stages, each requiring different strategies and adaptations. Now you face the final challenge of aging gracefully while maintaining the independence and dignity that have characterized your entire existence. Your world has become small but rich with meaning, limited in scope but deep in understanding. You've learned that survival isn't just about strength and aggression, but about adaptability, intelligence, and the willingness to embrace new strategies when old ones no longer serve. The lessons you've learned and the innovations you've developed represent a lifetime of accumulated wisdom that, while not directly transferable to other animals, influences the broader community through example and inspiration. As your 15th year progresses, you notice that even your most basic activities require careful planning. Getting up from your resting position takes several minutes of gradual movement to avoid the sharp pains that sudden motion brings. Your joints have stiffened to the point where your morning routine involves a slow process of stretching and testing each limb before attempting any real movement. The den that has been your home for so many years requires constant maintenance now, not because it's falling apart, but because your changing needs demand ongoing modifications. You've created a series of shallow depressions in the floor, each designed to support your body in different positions when the arthritis becomes unbearable. The entrance tunnel has been widened slightly to accommodate your increasingly careful movements. Your relationship with food has transformed completely. The abundant human sources that sustained you through your middle years now seem almost overwhelming. Your stomach can't handle the rich processed foods that once provided such efficient nutrition. You find yourself returning to simpler options: fresh fruits when you can find them, clean water from reliable sources, and the occasional small prey item when opportunity presents itself with minimal effort required. The urban raccoon dogs still visit, but less frequently now. They seem to understand instinctively that your energy is limited and their social calls, while welcome, shouldn't be prolonged. When they do come, they often bring small offerings of food, as if recognizing that your hunting days are essentially over. These gifts are accepted with gratitude, though you're careful not to become completely dependent on their generosity. Your daily routine has compressed into a series of essential activities performed at the pace your body allows. You wake naturally with the sun, spend time assessing your physical condition and the weather outside, make necessary trips for water and elimination, and then settle into long periods of rest and observation. The frantic activity that once defined your existence has been replaced by a slower, more contemplative rhythm. The changes in your sensory capabilities continue to affect how you interact with your environment. Your vision has become increasingly blurry, making it difficult to identify objects or movement at any significant distance. You compensate by relying more heavily on your sense of smell, which remains reasonably acute, and your hearing, which has actually improved in some ways, as you've learned to focus more intently on subtle sounds. These sensory adaptations have led to a deeper understanding of your immediate environment than you ever possessed as a younger animal. You can identify the approach of different weather systems by the subtle changes in air pressure and humidity that your skin detects. You recognize the daily routines of neighboring animals by their distinctive scent patterns and movement sounds. Your small world has become incredibly detailed and familiar. The emotional aspects of aging bring unexpected complexity. You experience something that might be loneliness when long periods pass without contact with other animals, but you also find deep satisfaction in the peace and quiet of your reduced existence. The constant stress of territorial defense, mate competition, and survival challenges has been replaced by a calm acceptance of your current limitations and capabilities. Your memory continues to provide entertainment and comfort during the long hours of rest. You revisit successful hunts from decades past, remembering the satisfaction of outsmarting prey or competitors through superior strategy. You recall the excitement of establishing your first territory and the pride of successfully raising offspring who went on to thrive independently. These memories feel vivid and immediate, more real sometimes than your current circumstances. The approach of winter in your 15th year brings challenges you've never faced before. Your body's ability to regulate temperature has declined significantly, making you vulnerable to cold in ways that wouldn't have affected you in younger years. You spend considerable time improving your den's insulation, using techniques learned from the urban raccoon dogs who've mastered the art of incorporating human materials into their shelters. Your food caching strategy has evolved to accommodate your reduced mobility and changing nutritional needs. Instead of stockpiling large quantities of diverse foods, you focus on smaller amounts of high quality, easily digestible options stored within easy reach of your primary resting areas. The urban raccoon dogs help by occasionally adding items to your caches, ensuring you have access to nutrition even during periods when leaving the den becomes impractical. The winter itself passes more quietly than any you've experienced. You spend most days in a state of semi hibernation, conserving energy and minimizing exposure to harsh conditions. Your activity level drops to the absolute minimum required for survival, with brief forays outside only when absolutely necessary for water or elimination. The accumulated fat reserves from years of successful foraging sustain you through the lean months. When spring arrives, your recovery is slower and less complete than in previous years. The seasonal abundance that once triggered increased activity and exploration now simply provides welcome relief from winter's hardships. You emerge from your den thinner and weaker, but still capable of independent survival within your very limited range of operation. The urban raccoon dogs check on you more frequently as spring progresses, clearly concerned about your condition but respectful of your independence. They share information about new food sources and changes in the human settlements, though much of this information is no longer relevant to your restricted lifestyle. Their visits provide valuable social contact and help you maintain awareness of the broader community you're still technically part of. Your 16th year begins with a recognition that your survival now depends entirely on maintaining the delicate balance you've achieved between your needs and your capabilities. Any significant disruption, injury, illness, or major environmental change could easily tip that balance toward a crisis you lack the reserves to survive. This awareness doesn't create anxiety so much as a heightened appreciation for each day of continued stability. The routine that sustains you becomes increasingly refined and efficient. Every movement is planned to minimize energy expenditure while accomplishing necessary tasks. Your den is organized to keep essential resources within easy reach. Your limited foraging follows predictable patterns that maximize the probability of success while minimizing the risk of exhaustion or injury. Your relationship with the ravens has evolved into something resembling mutual elder care. The surviving members of their family group are also showing signs of advanced age, and your interactions have become less about active cooperation and more about companionship among aging survivors. When they visit, you share whatever food you have available, and they provide what limited information they can about conditions beyond your immediate area. The human settlements continue to expand and change around you, but these developments have minimal impact on your daily existence. Your needs have become so simple and your range so limited that you're largely insulated from the broader environmental changes occurring in the region. The small patch of territory that sustains you remains adequate for your purposes, though you're aware that this situation could change without warning. Your physical condition continues its gradual decline, but at a pace that allows for ongoing adaptation. You develop new techniques for managing pain and discomfort, discover more efficient ways to conserve energy, and find creative solutions to mobility challenges. Each day brings small innovations that help you maintain independence despite increasing limitations. The social aspects of your existence take on new importance as your physical capabilities diminish. The visits from urban raccoon dogs become highlights of your routine, providing not just practical assistance, but emotional connection to the broader community. Their respect for your experience and achievements helps maintain your sense of dignity and worth despite your obvious decline. Your diet becomes increasingly simple and focused on foods that provide maximum nutritional benefit with minimal digestive stress. The complex, rich foods that sustained you through your middle years are now too challenging for your aging digestive system. You return to basics: clean water, fresh fruits when available, and occasional protein sources that require minimal processing. The seasonal cycles continue to affect your environment and routine, but with diminished intensity. Winter still requires preparation and conservation, but your needs are now so modest that extensive stockpiling isn't necessary. Spring still brings relief and renewed food availability, but your response is more subdued and focused on maintenance rather than expansion of activities. Your sleep patterns have evolved to accommodate your changing needs and capabilities. You spend more time in light sleep that allows for continued monitoring of your environment while providing necessary rest. Deep sleep periods are shorter but more intense, providing the restoration your body needs while minimizing the vulnerability that comes with complete unconsciousness. The memories that provide comfort and entertainment during rest periods have become more selective and focused. You find yourself returning repeatedly to specific experiences that represent the highlights of your long life, moments of particular success, satisfaction, or significance that seem to encapsulate the essence of your survival story. Your territory, once measured in square kilometers, has shrunk to encompass only the immediate area around your den and the most essential nearby resources. But within this tiny domain, your knowledge and control are absolute. You understand every scent, sound, and visual cue with perfect clarity. Your small world is completely mapped and thoroughly mastered. The approach of your 17th year finds you maintaining a stable existence within very narrow parameters. Your survival strategy has become purely defensive, focused on avoiding risks and maintaining the systems that keep you alive. Adventure and exploration are concepts from your past. Your present is about preservation and careful management of limited resources. The urban raccoon dogs continue their supportive visits, and you've come to depend on these interactions not just for practical assistance, but for psychological well-being. Their presence reminds you that you're still part of a larger community, still valued for your experience and achievements, still worthy of respect despite your obvious decline. Your contribution to the local animal community has shifted from active participation to symbolic significance. You represent the possibility of successful aging, the potential for survival far beyond the normal lifespan, and the value of adaptability in the face of changing circumstances. Younger animals observe you with curiosity and respect, learning from your example, even when direct communication isn't possible. The final phase of your existence unfolds with a mixture of acceptance and quiet determination. You've accomplished everything a raccoon dog can reasonably hope to achieve: successful territory establishment, reproduction, survival through multiple harsh winters, adaptation to human-dominated landscapes, and the development of innovative survival strategies that others have copied and built upon. Your legacy extends beyond your direct genetic contributions to include the behavioral innovations and survival techniques that have spread through the local population. The partnership strategies you pioneered with other species, the techniques you developed for exploiting human resources, and the adaptations you created for aging animals all represent lasting contributions to the community's collective knowledge. The story of your life continues, though its scope has narrowed to encompass only the most essential elements of daily survival. You wake each morning uncertain whether you'll see another sunset, but determined to meet whatever challenges the day might bring with the same intelligence and adaptability that have served you throughout your remarkable journey from helpless infant to respected elder. Your small world remains rich with meaning and possibility, even as its physical boundaries continue to shrink. You've learned that survival isn't ultimately about strength or territory or dominance, but about the ability to adapt to changing circumstances while maintaining the core elements that define your identity and purpose. The lessons you've learned and the innovations you've developed represent a lifetime of accumulated wisdom that will influence the local animal community long after your individual story comes to an end. The approach of what may be your final chapter brings not fear or regret, but a quiet satisfaction in having lived fully within the constraints and opportunities that defined your existence. You've experienced the full cycle of raccoon dog life, from vulnerable infant to territorial adult to innovative elder, and found ways to thrive at every stage through intelligence, adaptability, and an unwavering commitment to survival. Your 17th year passes in a blur of shortened days and extended rest periods. The distinction between seasons becomes less important when your world has contracted to just the area immediately surrounding your den. Leaves turning color, air growing colder. You notice the changes, ground hardening, but they affect you differently now. Instead of triggering urgent preparation activities, they simply inform your daily routine adjustments. The urban raccoon dogs have become your primary connection to the outside world. Their visits bring news of developments you can no longer witness firsthand. New construction has altered familiar landmarks, changing the landscape you once navigated with confidence. Food sources you relied on for years have disappeared or become inaccessible. But these changes feel distant now, like events happening in a world you no longer fully inhabit. Your body has reached a kind of equilibrium with its limitations. The sharp pains of earlier decline have settled into a constant, manageable discomfort that you've learned to work around. Movement remains slow and deliberate, but you've developed techniques that allow you to accomplish necessary tasks without overwhelming strain. Your joints have adapted to their restricted range of motion. The ravens that shared so much of your middle years have largely disappeared from your life. Whether they've died, moved away, or simply lack the energy for social visits, you're not sure. Their absence marks another connection to your past that is quietly severed. Norse. You miss their aerial perspective and weather warnings, but you've learned to compensate by paying closer attention to environmental cues you can detect from ground level. Your appetite has stabilized at a level that sustains your reduced activity without overtaxing your digestive system. The rich variety of foods you once enjoyed has been replaced by a simple diet focused on easy digestion and reliable nutrition. Water has become increasingly important, as your aging kidneys require more hydration to function effectively. You've identified several reliable sources within your limited range. The den that has sheltered you through so many seasons requires constant small adjustments to remain suitable for your changing needs. Your movements have worn smooth paths between different rest areas, each optimized for specific conditions or times of day. The entrance has been modified repeatedly to accommodate your increasingly careful entry and exit routines. Winter arrives with familiar challenges, but your response has become almost automatic. You retreat to the warmest, most protected area of your den and minimize all unnecessary activity. The urban raccoon dogs increase their visits, bringing small food contributions that help sustain you through the coldest periods. Their generosity has become essential to your survival. The long winter nights provide ample time for reflection on the journey that brought you to this point. You remember your mother's early lessons about survival, though her face has faded from memory. You recall the excitement of first establishing independent territory, the satisfaction of successful hunts, the complex negotiations of mating season. These memories feel both distant and immediate, like stories from another lifetime. Spring's arrival in your 18th year brings the familiar relief of warmer weather and increased food availability, but your response is more subdued than ever. The seasonal energy that once drove exploration and territorial expansion now simply provides enough motivation to resume minimal foraging activities. Your world remains small, but the improved conditions make maintaining your existence slightly less challenging. The urban raccoon dogs express concern about your increasingly fragile appearance, but they respect your determination to maintain independence. They've learned to gauge your condition through subtle signs, your posture, the sound of your movements, the clarity of your responses to their communications. Their assessments help them adjust their level of assistance without overstepping boundaries. Your daily routine has become a carefully choreographed sequence of essential activities performed at the pace your body allows. Morning assessments of weather and physical condition determine the day's possibilities. Brief foraging expeditions target the most reliable nearby sources. Long rest periods allow for recovery between activities. Evening preparations ensure comfort and security through the night hours. The sensory changes that began years ago have reached a point where they significantly affect your interaction with the environment. Your vision is now limited to detecting movement and basic shapes at short distances. Your hearing remains functional but less acute than in your prime. Your sense of smell continues to provide the most reliable information about your surroundings. These limitations have forced you to develop alternative strategies for gathering environmental information. You've become expert at interpreting subtle vibrations through the ground, changes in air pressure that indicate weather patterns, and temperature variations that suggest the best times for different activities. Your reduced world has become incredibly detailed and familiar. The emotional aspects of extreme aging bring unexpected complexity. Loneliness alternates with contentment, depending on whether you focus on your isolation or your independence. The absence of territorial pressures and competitive stress creates a peaceful existence, but the lack of meaningful challenges can sometimes feel empty. You find purpose in the simple act of continued survival. Your relationship with the local wildlife community has evolved into something resembling revered elder status. The few animals that encounter you treat you with obvious respect, recognizing your achievement in surviving so far beyond the normal lifespan. Younger raccoon dogs occasionally observe you from a distance, perhaps trying to understand the secrets of your longevity. The techniques you developed for exploiting human resources have been adopted by other animals in the area, though few have achieved your level of success. Your innovations in interspecies cooperation, particularly the partnership with ravens, have influenced local social dynamics in ways you can observe even from your limited perspective. Your legacy extends beyond genetic contributions. As your 18th year progresses, you notice that your margin for error continues to shrink. Minor injuries that would have been inconsequential in younger years now require careful management to prevent complications. A small cut on your paw becomes infected and takes weeks to heal properly. A stumble while foraging leaves you sore for days. The urban raccoon dogs adjust their support to match your increasing needs without making you feel helpless. They time their visits to coincide with your most active periods, providing social interaction when you're most capable of enjoying it. They contribute food to your caches without making it obvious that you're becoming dependent on their assistance. Your sleep patterns have evolved to accommodate both your need for extended rest and your vulnerability during unconscious periods. You've learned to achieve restorative sleep in shorter cycles that allow for frequent environmental monitoring. The deep, extended sleep of your younger years has been replaced by a pattern that balances rest with security. The memories that provide comfort during long rest periods have become more focused on specific themes, moments of particular cleverness in solving survival challenges, times when your adaptability led to breakthrough innovations, instances where your decisions prevented disaster or created opportunity. These recollections reinforce your sense of accomplishment despite current limitations. Your territory, now measured in meters rather than kilometers, represents the ultimate expression of efficiency in resource utilization. Every element serves multiple purposes. Every location has been optimized for your specific needs. The tiny domain you control is perfectly adapted to sustain your existence within the constraints imposed by extreme age. The approach of your 19th year brings a recognition that you've entered truly uncharted territory for your species. Few raccoon dogs survive this long under natural conditions, and your continued existence represents an extraordinary achievement. Each day becomes a small victory against the odds that would normally have claimed you years ago. Your survival strategy has become purely maintenance focused, with every decision evaluated for its impact on your delicate equilibrium. Risk assessment has become instinctive and comprehensive, weighing potential benefits against the catastrophic consequences that could result from even minor mistakes. Your caution isn't fearfulness, it's wisdom earned through decades of experience. The urban raccoon dogs continue their supportive presence, and their visits have become the highlight of your routine. Their youth and energy provide vicarious connection to the active world you once inhabited, while their respect for your experience helps maintain your sense of dignity and worth. These relationships represent the social connections that make continued existence meaningful. Your contribution to the local ecosystem has shifted from active participation to living symbol of survival possibility. Your presence demonstrates that intelligence and adaptability can overcome physical limitations, that cooperation can substitute for competition, and that innovation can extend life far beyond normal expectations. You've become a legend in your own lifetime. The daily challenges of extreme old age require constant creativity and problem solving. Simple tasks that once required no thought now demand careful planning and execution. Getting water from your nearest source becomes a complex operation involving route planning, rest stops, and careful attention to weather conditions. Every activity carries risks that must be carefully managed. Your diet has been reduced to the most basic elements that provide necessary nutrition without stressing your failing digestive system. The variety that once made eating pleasurable has been replaced by focus on sustaining your body's essential functions. Water intake has become critically important as your aging kidneys struggle to maintain proper hydration. The seasonal cycles continue around you, but your response to them has become minimal. Spring doesn't trigger expansion of activities. Summer doesn't bring increased foraging opportunities. Autumn doesn't inspire preparation behaviors, and winter simply requires endurance until conditions improve. Your existence has achieved a steady state that varies little with external changes. Your 19th winter passes in a haze of conservation and careful resource management. The urban raccoon dogs provide essential support that allows you to survive the harsh months without depleting your minimal energy reserves. Their assistance has become openly acknowledged rather than disguised as casual cooperation. You've accepted dependency as the price of continued existence. The emergence from winter is slower and less complete than ever before. Spring's arrival brings relief from the cold, but your physical condition shows the cumulative effects of another season of minimal activity and reduced nutrition. You're noticeably thinner and weaker, though still capable of maintaining independent existence within your tiny territory. Your 20th year begins with the quiet recognition that you've achieved something remarkable: 2 decades of survival in a world that claims most of your species within their first few years of life. The magnitude of this accomplishment isn't lost on you, even as your daily existence focuses on the most basic elements of staying alive from one day to the next. The urban raccoon dogs treat your milestone with obvious reverence, though they express it through increased attention rather than celebration. Their visits become more frequent, their contributions more generous, and their behavior more respectful. They seem to understand that they're witnessing something extraordinary that deserves acknowledgement. Your body has reached a state of extreme fragility balanced against stubborn resilience. Every system operates at minimum capacity, but somehow the overall organism continues functioning. Your heart beats steadily, though weakly. Your lungs process air, though shallowly. Your digestive system extracts nutrition, though inefficiently. The machinery of life continues despite its obvious wear. The world beyond your immediate territory has become increasingly abstract and irrelevant. Changes in human settlements, shifts in animal populations, and environmental developments that once would have demanded your attention now seem like distant events that have no bearing directly affects your survival, your memory on your daily existence. Your universe has contracted to encompass only what has become increasingly selective, focusing on information and experiences that remain relevant to your current situation. Detailed recollections of hunting techniques from decades past fade in favor of more recent innovations in energy conservation and pain management. Your brain allocates its limited resources to maintaining functions that serve immediate needs. The emotional landscape of extreme old age brings unexpected depth and complexity. Acceptance of mortality alternates with stubborn determination to continue existing. Satisfaction with your accomplishments balances against regret for experiences you'll never have. Peace with your current limitations contrasts with nostalgia for your former capabilities. Your daily routine has become a meditation on the essential elements of existence. Each activity is performed with full attention and careful consideration of its necessity and impact. There's no room for waste or inefficiency when every action must be justified by its contribution to continued survival. Your life has achieved a purity of purpose that would be impossible at any earlier stage. The approach of another winter brings familiar challenges, but your response has become almost ritualistic. You retreat to your most protected shelter, minimize all unnecessary activity, and rely on the support network you've cultivated to sustain you through the harsh months. The pattern has been repeated so many times that it feels almost automatic. Your relationship with the urban raccoon dogs has evolved into something resembling family care, with them taking responsibility for your well-being while respecting your independence as much as possible. They've learned to interpret your needs and provide assistance without making you feel helpless or burdensome. Their support has become essential to your continued existence. As your 20th year draws toward its close, you face the future with a mixture of acceptance and quiet determination. Each day brings you closer to the inevitable end of your remarkable journey, but that awareness doesn't diminish your commitment to making the most of whatever time remains. You've survived this long through intelligence, adaptability, and sheer stubbornness, qualities that continue to serve you even in extreme old age. Your legacy is already secure, written in the innovations you've pioneered, the partnerships you've forged, and the example you've set for other animals facing the challenges of aging in a demanding environment. The story of your life has become part of the local community's collective knowledge, inspiring others to push beyond accepted limitations and find creative solutions to survival challenges. The final chapters of your existence unfold with the same careful attention to detail and strategic thinking that have characterized your entire adult life. Every decision is weighed for its impact on your delicate equilibrium, every action planned to maximize benefit while minimizing risk. You've mastered the art of living within severe constraints while maintaining dignity and purpose. Your small world remains rich with meaning despite its physical limitations. The territory you control, though measured in mere meters, represents the culmination of a lifetime of learning about efficient resource utilization and environmental adaptation. Within its boundaries, you've achieved a level of understanding and control that would have been impossible to imagine in your youth. The story continues, though its pace has slowed to accommodate the realities of extreme age, and its scope has narrowed to focus on the essential elements of daily survival. You wake each morning with to meeting whatever challenges the day might bring, no guarantee of seeing another sunset, but with the same commitment that has sustained you throughout your extraordinary journey from helpless infant to legendary survivor. Your 21st year arrives without fanfare, marked only by the subtle recognition that you've crossed another threshold most of your kind never reach. The urban raccoon dogs seem to sense the significance, their visits carrying an almost ceremonial quality. They bring offerings more frequently now, small portions of easily digestible food, fresh bedding materials, even items that seem chosen more for comfort than utility. Your den has evolved into a carefully engineered life support system, with every surface modified to accommodate your specific needs. The walls have been worn smooth by years of careful movement, creating handholds and resting spots positioned exactly where your limited mobility requires them. Multiple chambers serve different functions: sleeping, food storage, waste management, and emergency shelter. It's become less of a burrow and more of a custom-designed habitat. The morning ritual of assessing your condition has become increasingly complex. Each joint must be tested carefully, each muscle group evaluated for its current capabilities. Some days bring unexpected mobility, others require acceptance of near-complete immobility. You've learned to read the signs that predict good days versus difficult ones, adjusting your plans accordingly. Your relationship with pain has evolved from resistance to accommodation. The constant ache in your joints has become a familiar companion, providing information about weather changes and activity limits rather than simply causing discomfort. You've developed techniques for working with pain rather than against it, finding positions and movements that minimize suffering while accomplishing necessary tasks. The urban raccoon dogs have established a rotating schedule of visits, ensuring that someone checks on you daily without overwhelming you with constant attention. Each visitor brings different strengths. One excels at finding the softest bedding materials. Another has mastered the art of locating the most digestible foods. A third provides the most engaging social interaction. Your communication with these caregivers has evolved beyond simple raccoon dog vocalizations to include a complex system of gestures, postures, and scent signals that convey your needs and condition with remarkable precision. They've learned to interpret subtle changes in your behavior that indicate everything from pain levels to food preferences to emotional states. The seasonal cycles continue their ancient rhythm around you, but your response has been reduced to the most basic accommodations. Winter means retreating to the warmest chamber and conserving every possible calorie. Spring brings slight increases in activity, as improved weather makes movement less painful. Summer requires finding ways to stay cool when your body can no longer regulate temperature effectively. Autumn passes almost unnoticed, except for the preparation activities your caregivers undertake on your behalf. Your diet has been refined to an almost pharmaceutical level of precision. Every item must provide maximum nutritional benefit while requiring minimal digestive effort. The urban raccoon dogs have become expert at identifying foods that meet these criteria, often testing options themselves before bringing them to you. Water quality has become critically important as your aging kidneys struggle with even minor impurities. The memories that sustain you during long rest periods have crystallized around specific moments that seem to capture the essence of your journey. The first successful hunt after leaving your mother, the establishment of your original territory, the development of your partnership with the ravens, the discovery of human food sources. Each memory represents a breakthrough that shaped your survival strategy. Your territory, now consisting of just your den and the immediate approaches, has achieved perfect efficiency. Every element serves multiple purposes. Every route has been optimized for your limited mobility. Every resource has been positioned for maximum accessibility. It's the ultimate expression of a lifetime spent learning to make the most of available opportunities. The physical challenges of extreme old age require constant innovation and adaptation. Simple tasks like repositioning yourself for comfort become complex engineering problems requiring careful planning and execution. You've developed techniques for accomplishing necessary activities that would be impossible using conventional methods. Each solution represents a small triumph of intelligence over physical limitation. Your sleep patterns have evolved to maximize rest while minimizing vulnerability. You've learned to achieve deep restoration in brief cycles that allow for frequent environmental monitoring. The extended unconsciousness of youth has been replaced by a vigilant rest that maintains awareness of potential dangers while providing necessary recovery. The emotional aspects of your current existence bring unexpected richness. The absence of territorial competition and survival pressure has created space for contemplation and appreciation that was impossible during your active years. You find satisfaction in small accomplishments, a successful repositioning, a particularly enjoyable meal, a pleasant interaction with your caregivers. Your contribution to the local community has evolved from active participation to inspirational example. Other animals observe your continued existence with obvious amazement, learning from your innovations in aging management and resource conservation. The techniques you've developed for surviving extreme old age are being copied and adapted by other elderly animals in the area. The urban raccoon dogs have begun bringing their young to meet you, though these encounters are brief and carefully supervised. The youngsters seem both fascinated and puzzled by your appearance, clearly trying to understand how any animal could survive so long. Their curiosity provides entertainment during otherwise quiet periods. Your 22nd year begins with the recognition that you've entered a territory that's not just rare for your species, but unprecedented in your local area. No raccoon dog in living memory has survived this long, making you a living legend whose continued existence defies all reasonable expectations. The urban raccoon dogs treat you with a reverence that borders on worship. The daily challenges continue to require creative solutions as your physical capabilities undergo further decline. Your vision has deteriorated to the point where you can only detect major movements and changes in light levels. Your hearing remains functional but requires intense concentration to gather useful information. Your sense of smell continues to provide the most reliable connection to your environment. These sensory limitations have forced you to develop alternative methods for monitoring your surroundings. You've become expert at interpreting vibrations through the ground, changes in air circulation that indicate weather patterns, and temperature variations that suggest the best times for different activities. Your reduced world has become incredibly detailed within its narrow boundaries. The urban raccoon dogs have adapted their care techniques to accommodate your changing needs. They've learned to approach slowly and announce their presence clearly to avoid startling you. They position food and water where you can access them without unnecessary movement. They adjust your bedding and shelter components without requiring your active participation. Your appetite has stabilized at a minimal level that sustains basic body functions without overtaxing your digestive system. The variety that once made eating pleasurable has been completely abandoned in favor of focus on survival nutrition. Every calorie must justify its consumption through contribution to continued existence. The approach of winter brings familiar preparations, but now conducted entirely by your support network. The urban raccoon dogs weatherproof your den, stockpile appropriate foods, and establish a schedule of increased visits to ensure your survival through the harsh months. You've become a passive recipient of care that you once provided for yourself. Winter passes in a blur of conservation and careful resource management. Your activity level drops to the absolute minimum required for basic survival. The urban raccoon dogs provide essential support that maintains your existence without requiring significant energy expenditure on your part. Their assistance has become openly acknowledged as life-sustaining care. The emergence from your 22nd winter is slower and less complete than any previous recovery. Spring's arrival brings relief from the cold, but your physical condition shows the cumulative effects of another season of minimal activity. You're noticeably more fragile, though somehow still capable of maintaining basic independence within your tiny domain. As your 23rd year arrives, you face each dawn with the quiet understanding that survival itself has become your greatest achievement. The urban raccoon dogs continue their devoted care, ensuring your basic needs are met while respecting the dignity you've maintained throughout this extraordinary journey. Your legacy lives on through the innovations you pioneered, the partnerships you forged, and the proof you provided that intelligence and adaptability can triumph over seemingly impossible odds. The story of your life, from that first dark burrow to this final chapter, demonstrates that survival isn't just about strength or territory, but about the willingness to adapt, learn, and find new solutions when old strategies fail. You've shown that even the smallest animals can leave lasting impacts on their communities, influencing behaviors and strategies that will outlive any individual lifetime. Your remarkable journey ends as it began, with quiet determination, but now you rest knowing you've lived fully within every constraint and opportunity that defined your existence. Here you can find the next video. Click on it. Until then, see you soon.